Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to episode 7 of 12 in my Countdown to Christmas 2020 series. This whole week I'm featuring projects made with the Curvy dies. The promotion started on 3rd of November called Curvy Celebrations. It has a bundle with this stamp set called Quite Curvy stamp set and the Curvy dies. And in addition there's also a Christmas set called Curvy Christmas and some designer series paper. We are going to be making this card and I'm combining it with Freezin Fun. There are dies to coordinate with this and it can be purchased as a bundle, and you'll find it on page 69 of the Autumn Winter catalogue. From the Freezin Friends dies, I'm going to be using this die and also the one that will cut out this chap. And the dies in here will also cut out these images. From the Curvy Christmas stamp set, I'll be using it to decorate the inside of the card. And we're going to be using this die. Let's run through the cardstock you'll need. For your card base, this is in Balmy Blue. It measures 8 1/4 by 5 7/8. That's 21 centimeters by 14.85 and folded in half. Then you have a Misty Moonlight layer, which has been cut at 5 5/8 by 3 7/8. In metric, that's 14.3 by 9.8. I have matte layer 2 for the card front, and that's been cut at 5 1/2 by 3 3/4. That's 14 centimeters by 9.5. For the inside of the card, this has been cut the same size, 5 1/2 by 3 3/4, 14 centimeters by 9.5. To do these layers of slopes for the hills, I've used a combination of the die from the Freezin Friends, which is just a stitched one, and also the ones with the holes in it. 4 pieces, Whisper White, 4 inches by 4 1/2 inches, that's 10.2 by 11 centimeters. You can trim them off as you wish once you've inserted them. Now, you need a piece of Balmy Blue glimmer paper. This is the other side of the slope that I cut it from, so I could use this piece again, the opposite side, and just trim off what I don't need. So I think that's about 1/4 of an inch off. Could do with a little bit more. Don't throw these bits away. Glimmer paper is rather precious and you can use it for something else. Tuxedo Black Memento ink, Misty Moonlight and Balmy Blue. I also added some snowflake sequins. So let's get started. Grab my foam mat. I'm going to do the stamping first. I'm going to stamp the sentiment in Misty Moonlight first. I'll do it on an angle so that it will fit the cardstock. Next I'm going to stamp the stars in Balmy Blue. Hold it there for a second for the ink to absorb, and then ink it up again and stamp underneath. Glue that to the inside of the card. Oops. Glue the Misty Moonlight to the card front. just going to use a pencil to mark the card that it's this way up, so I don't make the mistake of gluing the card upside down. So for my first slope, I'm going to use this die from the Freezin Friends die set. To make my sandwich, I need platform 1, platform 2, which is the thin die adapter. If you've got the magnetic plate, you can use the magnetic plate, but if you haven't, then you use platform 3 on the bottom. That's my cardstock. I want it this way round because it's better to cut this way rather than sideways, because it can warp your die. So let's see, it was round about there. And the second number 3 plate, and I'm ready to run it through the die cutting machine. Now when you're die cutting it with this die from Freezin Friends, when it cuts, it creates the stitches on both sides, so you can reserve this piece for the top and use this one for the bottom. If you look at the die, there's a cutting edge on this side where there's a raised bit that will cut along here, and the holes will be on the bottom. So you need to remember which way round that goes. So if you want the holes to show, then you need to have the cutting edge at the top or to the right if you're running your die through in this direction. So same sandwich, and I'll run it through the die cutting machine. Now you can use the same piece of cardstock and cut in the other direction, the slope in the other direction, so you want it going up this way, and make sure your cutting edge is at the top so it cuts. So I'll just put that through the machine and I'll be back. Now you've got your slopes cut, you can now glue them together. I'll start with the bottom one, which is this one, and don't forget it'll be wider than the glimmer paper because the glimmer paper was cut at 3 3/4 inches, which is the right size. And just going to put glue at the bottom. I'm not going to put glue on the sides because you have to insert the paper inside for your slopes. Then you need this piece. You want the slope going the other way, and make sure you've poked all these leftover bits out. So glue on this side, marry them up together, glue on the back of this slope, bring in this piece, which is your matte layer for the card front, is the background for the slopes. So you want to make sure that you leave a bit at the top to stamp on here. So about there. Okay. Now the reason I've done it like this is so that it won't be too thick on the bottom. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Maybe pull it down a bit. And then I can trim. won't go through so many layers. Have to use a pair of scissors. Apply adhesive. I want to make sure that I've trimmed it right. Won't go through so many layers, I'm going to have to use my scissors. There you go. Apply adhesive on there to properly secure it. Next, bring in the Tuxedo Black Memento ink and stamp this. I think it's a rabbit. I'm not sure if it is. Oh, I forgot to record it. I've stamped the Merry Christmas in Misty Moonlight. Now I'm going to swap inks and stamp the stars randomly in Balmy Blue. Now we need to do a bit of colouring before we die cut the bunny rabbit. I'm going to do his scarf in Balmy Blue shading with the smoky slate for the skis and petal pink for his ears. So I shall be speeding this up. Die cut the bunny rabbit on skis. I've decided it is a bunny because of his flappy ears. So again, the sandwiches, platform 1, platform 2, and one of the platforms 3s, and the second platform 3, and I'm ready to run it through the die cutting machine. I'll do that and I'll be back. Grab some dimensionals. Pop him on, and you can see I'm following the slope on the bottom slope, and then with my Memento Black ink I'll stamp the sentiment "we" down here. To glue this piece onto the card front, next glue the snowflake sequins onto the card. Now I use this fine tip glue pen for sequins, but it clogs up quite quickly if you don't recap it immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'll just apply the glue where I want the sequins and then recap it immediately to prevent that from happening. Then I'll pick it up with the putty end and unscrew that so that I've got both ends of the tool to help me release the sequin. So before I go, I'll show you the other cards I've done with the other creatures. So there's the penguins, and I embossed that with the snowflake embossing folder, and I put a wink of Stella on the snowballs. They're having a snowball fight, and I love that little ice pad there for the seal. So that's another possibility. And these are the cards we did today. So I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial, and join me again next week for episode 8. All the supply links are below this video in the show more section. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.